Hey everyone, so this is a day later than I wanted to make it, but Riot hadn't released all the changes and I didn't really want to make one and then have half the stuff in and half of it not. Basically, it's not my fault it's a day late, so sorry, but we've got everything now. So we've got like Pyke, Illaoi, and Udyr, kind of gameplay changes, and then the biggest things really are nerfs, so like Sivir, Sejuani, even Karma as well. We're going to start off with the biggest changes, and the biggest one out of all of these as well is to Pyke. His Q stab damage has been changed from AoE, so area of effect, to single target now. It does prioritize the nearest champion instead of a minion, but they've also removed the 15% bonus damage when you stab someone, and to compensate, the cooldown has been lowered by 2 seconds rank 1. Your W move speed has been changed from a flat 40%, it goes up to 60% now with your ranks, and your E, your stun, no longer damages non-champions. As you can kind of tell, two of the biggest things here are aimed at lane Pyke, right? So your Q isn't going to affect minions anymore, and neither is your E. I kind of think this actually kills lane Pyke now. I don't really see a way that you can control the lane phase, you can push at all and solo lane and farm easily, because everything that worked against them has now been taken away. Unfortunately, it's not just lane Pyke though. Support Pyke is going to feel this as well. So like, first of all, actually the damage is just lower on the stab. So if you actually go for a kill and you try and use it for the damage, it's just not going to do any more. As well, if you're trying to push or you're trying to like shove in before you base, for example, or help your AD carry, you literally can't really do that anymore. Like, you can do one minion with your Q and your E doesn't target them at all. The compensation doesn't really matter either, in my opinion, because the move speed you're not going to feel until much later into the game anyway, and your Q cooldown is nice, but it won't make much difference just for the very early stages of the lane. The way they've decided to balance Pyke is to make him scale really well with lethality, just in like the stun duration and other stuff like the XQ damage, but if you have way more gold and way more lethality, it kind of gets out of control. Moving on now to Illaoi, her passive tentacles deal less damage. They last half as long. They don't see as far, but they won't go idle when away from Illaoi. Her W also has a minimum damage now of 20 to 60, and it works on turrets, which is a really big part to this kind of gameplay update. Her E no longer reduces by 1 second each time Illaoi is damaged, and to compensate for that, the duration of the spirit and the vessel duration have been lowered. Your ultimate also now summons up to a maximum of 6 from 5. So the main things are really that your split push and your tower taking is now going to be better because your W can be used on that, and also your ultimate can do a little bit more damage in theory in a team fight. It does kind of fit with what Illaoi wants to do anyway. You win your lane phase really hard, and now in theory, once you actually kill somebody, which isn't really too hard to do, you take their tower even faster than before. Honestly, I don't think the E really makes much difference because it was a useless mechanic anyway. Sort of like, not many people really knew about it anyway, and it kind of was just really confusing. So removed that and kind of balanced it out. Even with the passive stuff, like, there are downsides and upsides, I guess, at the same time. So Illaoi probably will get played a little bit more because she's being updated like this. She'll probably be even better with the lead, but she might not get that lead as often. Last up, we're going to be looking at a kind of mini update to Udyr. So all of his spells now have a 6th rank starting level 16 because obviously he doesn't have an ultimate. Alongside that, we actually have a nerf and a buff though. So his Q has been nerfed. The AD ratio has been changed to 110 to 185 from 120 to 180. So it is down 10%. The damage is going to go up to a maximum now of 180 from 150 at that 6th rank. Your W shield is going to go up as well. Your E move speed is going to go up, and it's even going to give you that move speed for a little longer. The buff is going to come for his Phoenix stance. So the cone damage has been increased by 10. It's now maximum though of 275 at rank 6 from 200 as before, and that is a really big change. The damage per tick is also going up by 10%. So basically, Tiger is going to be weaker, Phoenix is going to be stronger, and when you get to the late game, you will be stronger in general. I saw Jack talking about this actually on Twitter, and he reaches level 16 apparently in 33% of games and level 18 in only about 10%. Basically, the buffs are aimed at the very late stages of the game where you don't really get to them that often anyway, and close to like 70% of games, all it really is a 10% ratio nerf on his Q and 10 to 25 more damage on his Phoenix stance. It is going to be good for Udyr because he's already pretty good early game. He can invade well, he runs around, he is an absolute nightmare to play against anyway. And your Tiger, like, even though it is being nerfed, if you get to really late phases into the game, it's actually going to be a buff, and you also have way more damage on your Phoenix now. So apart from those, obviously Pyke is the biggest nerf, but we actually have 5 other nerfs that are a bit more simple. So for example, Sivir's mana per 5 and AD per level have been slightly lowered, but her W mana cost increased to 75 from 60. The mana cost is really the big part about these changes because it's going to lower her lane phase pressure just a little bit. I mean, she can't push as hard. Right now, she's going to be AFK pressing W and Q to push and to also poke at the same time. Like, it isn't just shoving the wave, it is dealing damage to the enemy laners. To put it into perspective, if you use this 4 times in the lane phase, you would have been able to use it 5 before the nerf. So that actually is quite a lot. Like, that's an extra wave that you can't now shove because of the mana change. It should make her weaker in the lane phase. It should make it easier to fight as well, harder to get shoved in, so you can spend more time spanking her rather than getting spanked under your tower. Those aren't too huge, but she's also going to get a nerf because Essence Reaver's cost has been increased by 100 gold. It isn't just Sivir, it's stuff like Xayah. I guess Caitlyn has started to use this second as well, so anyone who builds Essence Reaver is getting a nerf in this patch. 100 gold doesn't seem like a lot, but it's about an extra wave, I guess, at like the early stages into the game. So you have to stay for an extra wave now, farm that out, and then you can go and buy it. Obviously, late game, if you're picking it up, it doesn't really matter at all, but at that early stage in the game, an extra wave can make a bit of difference and mess up your base timing. Also as well, it's now 3,300 gold versus Infinity Edge that is 3,400 gold, and IE is going to be a much better purchase on most champions. If we look at somebody like Jinx, for example, it's 700 gold less now to get to 75% crit than on a Sivir, right? It's going to be Infinity Edge and 2 Zeal items rather than your Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, and Zeal, which is actually pretty expensive. So another bot laner, but this time support, is getting nerfed this patch. Sona's Q aura damage AP ratio lowered by 10%, and also her E move speed from AP lowered to 3% per 100 AP from 6%. AP ratios are definitely more at the kind of Sona Taric strat, or that kind of evolution of the strat anyway. It's not really going to affect support unless late game, or if you've built like AP anyway. Speed is like really underrated in teamfights to like chase and to kite people and stuff, so this nerf, like halving the ratio, is actually pretty big. It is less damage to a team. If you're not building AP, you won't really feel it anyway, but she still does crazy damage herself though, so that is kind of staying there. Another support that we have is to Karma, so her E, her shield move speed duration lowered to 1.5 seconds from 2.5, and that is just a revert from the last patch. If you weren't aware, they basically increased it. The shield already lasts 2.5 seconds, and they just buffed the move speed duration to match it. That meant that tank Karma and like support Karma could kite endlessly, and you could never catch them, and it was just really bad for the game and made her really strong. Even though these are being reverted, we also had the Q slow percentage increase last patch, and that is going to stay. So that buff is staying on live servers anyway, and it just means like it's easier to have some follow-up damage, and also stuff like Arcane Comet becomes more viable because the slow means it's more guaranteed to hit. Last up in our nerfs then, we have 1-2 Sejuani. Her health per level has been lowered by 10, and her W on the second swing has been lowered to 5% damage from 6%. Right now, Sejuani is so good because she is a tank, but she's good early game. So she can farm pretty well, she can duel people, she can stack her stun, and she can even like fight for crabs and stuff. She's not that weak in comparison to other tanks. The good thing is they're not taking away any kind of crowd control aspect of her kit at all. They're just lowering her damage really and making her slightly less tanky. So basically saying that if you have your team around you, you're still going to be a really good pick, a tank pick, but you aren't going to have as much damage and duel people as easily. So let's go into our buffs. Now, these aren't going to be huge. I'm not going to lie. Like, we don't have anything crazy here, but we do have a bunch of them. So we have 6 buffs and 2 item changes. First up, our biggest buff is probably to Sylas. Now, Sylas is basically the worst champion in the entire game. At the moment, I think his win rate is absolutely garbage. We had a lot of different changes. They are experimenting with bigger changes as well. But for now, his health per level is going to be increased by 10. Base AD up a little bit as well. And his W damage increased by 5 to 25. I don't know if this is going to be enough for him. They are testing some other stuff, as I said, that's a little bit bigger, so we might see some of them. But these are probably band-aid fixes to make him not as trash as he is right now. The good thing is that when you actually do engage on somebody, you're going to be still fine. You still do a lot of damage, and if you get ahead, you're great. But you just have way less safety, I guess, in his kit, and is easier to punish now. Tristana is also actually getting a few buffs. These aren't massive again, but Tristana I think is actually okay at the moment. She's just very lane focused. If you can get ahead in the lane phase, you're great. If you can't, you're kind of screwed. So AD per level is going to go up a little bit, only a little bit though, but a W damage has been increased by 10. As I said before though, one good thing about this is that you don't really build Essence Reaver on Tristana. I tried it, it works okay, but you don't normally do it. You build double Zeal, right? So when the Essence Reaver champions are being nerfed, these Zeal items are going to be going back up again. As I said, I actually think Tristana is pretty good anyway. She's very good in the lane phase. Her W damage is going to be used to try and get some kills, and you can in theory use it twice as well for 20 extra damage, which I guess in the lane phase can actually make a little bit of a difference. Sticking with bot lane just a second, we have some stuff to Leona, so it's basically base stat rounding up stuff, slightly more health, some mana, and some move speed. It isn't going to be huge, but Leona got quite a few changes recently that actually made her really good again. Like her W basically has 100% uptime if you do it properly. Right now the problem is just there are other champions that are a little bit better, but if Pyke gets worse, and we also have some Lux changes eventually, if Sivir's going to be getting worse as well, Leona is probably going to get better anyway. Last champion change we have today is going to be to Ornn. So his Q80 ratio is going up 10%, and that is going to be about 10 damage even with items. Even though you don't build AD on Ornn, you could build something if you really wanted to, I guess. But even though you don't build AD, this is actually feeding from your base stats, and that is why we're getting about the 10 damage. It's not going to be huge again, and Ornn is kind of in a weird place. But if you get to late game with Ornn on your team, it's probably one of the best champions to have because he increases everybody else's damage for free. Also as well for tanks, there have been loads of tank changes recently, and we're going to see way more because Rana's Omen, the armor has been increased by 10. I honestly hate seeing this item on the enemy team because it gives you armor, it gives you health, but it does minus 20% crit strike damage taken from basic attacks. Also, when you're attacked anyway, even though you're taking less damage, you actually cripple the source's attack speed by 15% for 1 second. It basically works like a Thormail, but instead it's reducing your attack speed, and it sucks. It's really hard to kill a tank when they have this, so this is a really good answer, and they're buffing it this patch. Last up, we have the Rod of Ages stuff. So remember I did that video talking about how we're having this whole like AP item overhaul? Well, apparently that is now on hold. Unfortunately, they're only going with the Rod of Ages change. That means the cost has been lowered by 100 gold. Nowhere near as interesting as the Madness reword that we had before, but basically if you want to build Rod of Ages, you'll get it a little bit earlier, 100 gold, which is about a wave earlier, so you get that and it will be stacking sooner. The big other thing to mention is that we have the Kiana, I think that's how you say it, the new champion coming to live on 9.13 as well. I won't go over her right now because this video would turn into a massively long video, but basically when she releases, I'll release a guide for her as well. That is going to wrap up all of the changes for 9.13 though. Let me know what you're most excited for, and I'll probably be streaming right now if you want to come and check it out. But thank you for watching until the very end. Enjoy the rest of your day, and for now, I will leave you with the robots.